Hey, what's up? It's Jim, and today I'm going to talk about Woody Woodpecker from 2017. And this is the winner of my Patreon movie review vote. If you would like for me to review a movie of your choice, then click on the link below and pledge, and maybe I'll be reviewing your movie next month. This movie, I guess, is sort of infamous in that it happened and was barely released, but isn't as infamous or as interesting in terms of any of its execution whatsoever. It's basically like, hey, have you seen the Yogi Bear movie? Have you seen the Smurfs movie? It's basically like all those movies you've seen before. But in some ways, it just shows you corporately, when you have something this is made by Universal's direct-to-video department, it kind of shows you where those divisions are going, because they used to make things straight to DVD or Blu-ray to like be on like the third shelf down in Blockbuster, and now these things are on Netflix because they're like, well, these divisions are still here. And Alex Zam, who directed this, is kind of becoming a bigger director, I guess, on Netflix. He did The Christmas Prince, which, since my wife watches a lot of those Netflix movies, I've seen. It's not very good. This is kind of done by a kind of boring kind of TV director. His directorial debut was chairman of the board, but to kind of defend him as a director, he did direct episodes of Bone Chillers, which is I think has a bit of a following, and then 2 episodes of the Upright Citizens Brigade show, which, hey, you know, he has that, not anything else, but he has that. But Woody Woodpecker, not even a very good version of these like CG animal cartoon character in real life things, and it doesn't even really work in terms of like what it's doing. There's plot points where I'm like, you find out about these like hunters and you're not sure when that's coming back and how that connects exactly. You're not exactly sure what they're trying to say about this dad and his girlfriend, which doesn't really make sense, like what's going on, because the plot of this is basically this dad who gets fired for being a lawyer for saying shitty things about how great oil companies are, then is fired and has all this money, I guess, because he's a big lawyer, and then he goes to this land he's inherited and is going to make a big house and then sell it or something, and he has to have his son also because his ex-wife is like going away to look after her sick father. But what I don't get about a lot of that is like, one, he's rich, so he clearly pays a lot for child support. 2, if he's rich, he could probably pay for childcare, so that like doesn't work right there. And 3, she probably would have just taken him with her because they're clearly being well taken care of and given child support, and it looks like he's at least co-parent enough that they're on speaking terms, that there's probably something more there than this film really wants to address. But this film has constant logic problems, and I'm just like, I understand it has a CG bird that poops on things and farts and stuff, but there's like huge things and I'm just like, that doesn't even make sense. Like, that doesn't, logic wise, this doesn't work. I think logic with Woody Woodpecker shouldn't work. It shouldn't. Frankly, it's a talking bird, which, by the way, that's another thing. I did not know that the characters in this did not understand that he could speak English. That wasn't clear to me because this movie is very badly made. Anybody, like, I was watching a review, so it was like, you know, but the people can't understand him, and I was like, what? They can't? What do you mean? I thought they could, but they can't, I guess? But then I was like, I don't really want to rewatch it, but I'm sort of could go either way, which is maybe construed as a part of like surrealism, but is really just bad filmmaking. So they're going to build this house, which at first you'd think would be sort of an economic boom to this town that looks like it has pretty much nothing going on, and which isn't addressed whatsoever. It seems like everyone just sort of like drives really far to come in there from Seattle. This is all in Washington State, I'm assuming. But see, that's kind of the thing. You look at this film and you think of the logic, particularly like, why are they staying there all the time? That's weird. Why is his girlfriend there, who's apparently just supposed to be an interior designer, and she's trying to interior design a house that doesn't exist at that point even in the movie? I don't want to bring up that, like, I don't really know how interior design works, let's just say that, but to my loose understanding of how interior design works, let's just put that out there, you need a house to design the interior of. That's just a thing that I've heard. Might be wrong. I expect a lot of angry comments, but I'm pretty sure you don't hire an interior designer to come to a fucking construction site and just like, yeah, I'd like this here. And they're like, there's no here. The fuck are you talking about? We don't even know where the light's gonna be. Like, are you for real right now? The problem is with Woody Woodpecker. Woody the Woodpecker almost debunks its own thesis within its own movie, because at the end of the movie, there's a short, an older short called like Niagara Falls, or it's about Niagara Falls, right? I forget the title. I'm sure someone in the comments will tell me. I think it was just Niagara Falls or something, or Barrel in Niagara Falls. But it's actually a funny short, and it reminds reminded me, hey, I did like Woody Woodpecker at some point before I sat through this movie, which is only like 80 something minutes, which isn't a short runtime, which is sort of weird that at the end of the credits they're like, here's a short. And also weird on Netflix because like I didn't know it was there until I started reading things and was like, wait, there's a short? Maybe that was just direct to DVD. And I was like, I don't know, maybe I should check. And I did. And watching that short, it's very like Woody Woodpecker works like any animated short, and it's much like about the gag. That's 100% what that short was about. And that gag, even though it was repetitive and silly and a little stupid, it was fun, and I had fun with it, and I liked the repetition of it. It actually worked within its own comedy. But it was about that gag kind of set piece, almost like, you know, like silent comedians like Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin, and so forth. It's weird to me that if you're like, how do we adapt these things? And you don't just look at like, hey, there's like these Buster Keaton, Charlie Chaplin movies. People still actually really like those. Why don't we do that? Instead, they just go, why don't we just do literally what everyone else did that nobody likes? And Woody the Woodpecker, in terms of a thesis kind of on this character and what to do with him, works better within the gag. He's not really that interesting. He has the unique little laugh, like the like that was better than I thought it would, but it's not great. But it's the Woody the Woodpecker kind of thing. He has some iconic stuff, but he's not like Bugs Bunny where he has a necessarily more defined personality. Walter Lantz, who created him, had a very long history of work in animation, and you can tell he's like a very well-seasoned kind of short kind of thing in that. And the other shorts, from my recollection, had that kind of a thing within it. And also, I think the reason we don't know about Woody Woodpecker is he's not like a part of a corporate studio's branding identity, so why would we hear about him? Universal owns him, but they don't seem to really do very much with him. They talked about an Illumination movie, nothing happened, so we're stuck with this for some reason. I find that so weird because you're like, well, if you just had a series of funny gag set pieces, which this film sort of does, but in like the most obvious way, they're not done to like do slapstick comedy, they're done to kind of do within the kind of bad slapstick of modern day kind of kids films. And I think that's where Woody the Woodpecker kind of completely falls apart, because you're not thinking of the character, which there isn't very much of one, but you're not thinking like what people liked about those shorts, which was the gags. That's what's funny. I mean, there's nothing else to take away from them, so this isn't like a Wild Jim interpretation here. You take the gag that is Woody Woodpecker and make it more gag centric. You don't try to make Woody Woodpecker Home Alone, which part of the Woody Woodpecker Home Alone thing also is that he like goes way too far. I know Pan did the joke about and also I'm aware that I am in that review sort of, so like you don't need to bring it up. The thing with the gas in he fills up their RV with gas and explodes it, that is like going way too far. But Woody the Woodpecker like really takes it there. Like I'm legitimately afraid of the Jigsaw like character that Woody the Woodpecker is. He's very sadistic in this, and I don't think that's like the character. The character is a scamp who will keep trying things, who will keep going with this gag, who will trick you, things like that. But in this, he's just like what these kind of movies should be, and Woody the Woodpecker is kind of forced to do that. There's times where he calls himself a sellout because of the plot of this film, which is like kind of feels like the character almost knows he's sold out to kind of be pushed into the relevance that is a modern day kids film. But I would argue that, you know, some of those like awesome little gag shorts kind of get to like people still watch the Looney Tunes. People like those smaller animated theatrical shorts still, and I think Woody the Woodpecker would have worked a lot better had they actually done that. And putting that short at the end makes me question like, well, why did you do that if you knew, you know, you could have just done what this is? Also, they restored it, which was nice. I would have much rather them just restore all the old Woody Woodpecker cartoons and just have that. But I guess there wouldn't be like 4 other people who do cartoon reviews of that. So I guess I sort of get where they're coming from. Now, this film was made because of its popularity, particularly in Brazil, and was actually released there. And I've heard all sorts of things where it was limited or something like that. In Brazil, it was actually called Pica-Pau o Filme, which I think Pica-Pau is Woody the Woodpecker. The movie is, I assume, what it meant, and it actually did well at the end yearly box office in 2017. This is a real thing. The end yearly box office, it actually was at number 31 made about $6 million. It actually outgrossed the Lego Batman movie, Triple X3, and Blade Runner 2049, which it opened against. But actually, 31st of the year is not bad. That's actually like really good. So it actually did do fairly well. It was like a mainstream movie over there. And this, despite being filmed in English and actually in Canada, not Seattle, I know, shocking. They actually made it for that audience, which I guess makes sense since it made $6 million. So that sort of worked out. And according to Wikipedia, it made its money back. I'm not sure where they're getting those numbers. I could only find the yearly box office for Brazil of 2017. I could not find a box office total for this movie. But I'm assuming through other international territories, this film actually did well. I think there's actually a good movie to be made of Woody Woodpecker. That's kind of not the problem with this movie. The problem with this movie is it's too typical. It's too lame within its own thing. And if you look at, like, this guy also directed The Christmas Prince or A Christmas Prince or Somebody's Christmas Prince, I don't know, who cares, is that he basically goes within the very genre of, like, kind of lame sort of TV movie things that you do. And I'm not a big fan of the Hallmark movies or anything like that. I have nothing against them. But I don't think I don't know a lot of people who like The Christmas Prince, although I think other people in other Netflix kind of Hallmark ripoff movies watch The Christmas Prince, which is a whole other thing not to get into. But he kind of works within, like, this is what this sort of movie should be. And in that way, I think in the Hallmark movies, people like those genre conventions and it sort of works within its own thing there. In Woody Woodpecker, that's like such a boring, stale genre. Like, nobody really likes those movies. And I think that's the problem, is it's relying on a genre that inherently you don't like past the age of like 5 to 7, and then you go, this is sort of bullshit. Like, this is very cliched. I've seen this thing done with the dad and the son before. I've seen that before. And it's not saying virtually anything different about it, you know? It has a thing with the son's band that goes virtually nowhere and has almost no connection to the narrative. It's kind of going more to cliches than actually telling a story, which is not fun to watch at all. Like, nobody likes watching movies like that. And I, frankly, didn't like watching this movie either. The best part about it is literally after the credits, and that's not a like, because you get to go home joke. It's actually more of a, because you get to watch the short and remind yourself what's so good about Woody the Woodpecker. So I think they're smart in that you can end this movie and go, oh, right, that's why this character was kind of fun. I missed these shorts, despite this character not having the distinct personality of better big animation characters of the era. I like that they ended it on that, because if they had ended like a Chipmunks movie on like one of the Chipmunks cartoons I used to like, I would be like, oh, hey, that's cool. You restored it and it looks nice. So for those last 5 minutes, I'd give that, or however many minutes, I'd give that a great review. I'd give this movie is horrible. It is basically like, it's really ruining the real star of the show, which is only like a small portion of the Netflix file, I guess, or what's on Netflix. This is not a good movie at all. But it's sort of a nothing movie, you know? It's kind of sad what they did to Woody Woodpecker. I wish they would do more, but it's sad if they do this to any character. And anytime they take animation into the live action world, it's almost always disappointing, because no one really gets to like, hey, what made that special in animation? No, I don't care. Anyway, I'm going to do this. Anyway, this is what I'm going to do. Fuck you. And then you as an audience are so disconnected from it, because it's almost like them telling you what you want, when you're like, but I knew what I wanted. It was the original animated thing of this, and this is just another like boring kind of like just on the wall kind of things. I don't think Woody Woodpecker is maybe the worst movie. It's sort of almost unnotable in terms of the film itself. It's notable because we're all like, how did this thing kind of just leak out on Netflix? But it was sort of like never meant to be more than it was anyway in terms of how it was released. So I guess in terms of what it was, it's sort of like fine. This is just fine, but it does point to the fact that this is not what Woody the Woodpecker is. It almost does not want you to leave and think that's what Woody the Woodpecker is. And by having that short on there, that animated short is everything, and maybe it's on YouTube and you should just watch it there and just sit out this movie, which I think most people have. Woody the Woodpecker is really, I don't say one of the worst things ever or anything. It's just kind of worse in being so unnotable, which makes it even worse because it's a complete waste of your time, because you probably won't remember it, Alzheimer's or none. You'll just let that kind of slip away, and years later you go, oh yeah, I think that sucked, maybe. So if you would like to talk about Woody Woodpecker, comment below in the comments, and subscribe if you would like to. And this was the winner of my Patreon movie review vote. If you would like for me to review a movie of your choice, then click on the link below and pledge, and maybe I'll be reviewing your movie next month.